want to bring in Christopher Stacey now from Unlock. And he works with ex-cons through the charity Unlock to get them back into the community. Christopher, thanks very much indeed for coming onto the programme tonight.
Good evening, Graham.
I believe you have a criminal record yourself, is that right?
I do indeed, yeah.
You've not spent time in prison?
No, I've not. I got a quite serious suspended prison sentence, so I narrowly avoided prison about 5 years, just over 5 years ago now it was.
Do you know roughly how many people in the UK have a criminal record?
Yes, it's quite an astonishing figure. There's over 9 million people in the UK that have a criminal record. So
wow.
While even our prison numbers are quite high at sort of between 80 and 90,000, it's kind of a figure that often gets ignored. So, you know, that covers the whole spectrum. So from people picking up minor convictions, fines and what have you to quite serious sentences. But in a sense, in lots of ways, that doesn't really change things in that people, when they get convictions, they have them for life. So the example of Lenny, who you'll be speaking to later on, he's sadly a common example of the kind of people that we have contact with at Unlock. We run a helpline for people with convictions to give them advice on issues that they might be having and how to overcome them. And sadly, we see some very sad situations where, you know, people have done some terrible things and they've served their sentences, and now they're just trying to get on with their lives. And despite many years of, you know, never committing a criminal offence again, they are struggling, and they're just trying to do the right thing for themselves, for their family, and to society. They're trying to contribute, and their criminal record holds them back.
Well, the question I'm asking tonight in the programme, Christopher, is once you've been in prison, are you always branded a criminal? It's the right question to be asking, and sadly, the answer to that at the moment is yes. I mean, I think we do have some systems in place that are designed to help people who are leaving prison. So we have this thing called the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, which sets out periods of time after which people don't have to disclose their conviction for certain jobs. Sadly, not many jobs nowadays are actually covered by that, so people often find themselves having to disclose their convictions for many, many years, and in some cases for the rest of their life. What's the definition of a spent conviction? Because lots of people have been talking about that to me today. I just want to get clear in my head what it is, and also explain to my listeners what it means as well.
Okay, so a spent conviction is under the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act. It depends on what sentence somebody receives. After a certain period of time, their conviction may become what's known as spent. And, for example, if somebody receives a fine at court, it will take currently 5 years for their conviction to become spent. If they receive a prison sentence, say of 1 year, it will take 10 years for their conviction to become spent. Now, those periods are actually quite long when you compare them to the sort of reoffending statistics, and they will be changing later on this year, and they will be reducing. One thing I would say is we have a tool on our website. Our website is unlock.org.uk. We have a disclosure calculator where if people have convictions, they can work out when their convictions become spent, because it gets particularly complicated when people have multiple convictions. And so under the current law, they can put in the details. They don't need the personal details, just the details of their conviction, and they'll be able to find that out, and they'll get dates. And what that will mean is if their conviction is spent when they're applying for most jobs, not jobs that involve working with children or vulnerable adults, but most jobs, and when they're applying for things like insurance, housing, if their conviction is spent, then they don't have to disclose it.
So what do former prisoners have to disclose when it is spent?
Well, people who are coming out of prison will have to disclose for at least 7 years. Anybody with a prison sentence under the current law, it will take at least 7 years. And sadly, for anybody with a prison sentence of over 2.5 years under the current law, they will always have to disclose for the rest of their life whenever they are asked by an employer. And most employers do ask. That period will be increased, so prison sentences of up to 4 years by the end of this year when the change is coming. Anybody with a prison sentence of up to 4 years, their conviction will become spent. But sadly, we still speak to people who will never be covered by that. And I think it's quite a sad indictment on our society, really, that we're saying to people who have received sentences of over 4 years, in the eyes of the law, they can technically never be rehabilitated. I'm not a softly liberal that says, you know, we should
say to people that that they deserve a second chance and that we should treat them sort of softly. But I do think we need to give people an opportunity to say, okay, you've done some things wrong, but now you've redeemed yourself, and we should allow you to get on with your life. And sadly, not everybody finds themselves in that situation.
Thank you very much indeed for coming on to the programme tonight, Christopher, and good luck with all the work at Unlock as well.
Thank you.